Good morning, good afternoon,
Good
or good
morning.
evening, wherever you're following us from. Hi, Kacem. How are you?
Hi, Heuda. How are you doing? Good morning.
Good,
Good morning,
good.
everyone.
It's my morning. Is it your afternoon?
It's my early afternoon,
It's your
but
early
I think
afternoon.
it's
So, yes,
morning, afternoon, and evening time for most of our participants.
exactly. This is a live webinar between FoodEshow and TradeSocial, and we will tell you why we have teamed up to optimize supply chains and global competitiveness. For now, what we would like to do is thank you and welcome you to this webinar, to joint webinar. And we ask you to be interactive. This is for you, for SMEs, so you can ask questions. We are both in a supply chain and we are both in the global market, so feel free to ask. Um, we will start the webinar by a quick presentation for each of us, and then we will move on in answering some questions that are very important into the trade. So, Qasim, in a minute or two, would you care to present yourself and what you have done in the realm of supply chain and competitiveness?
Thank you very much, Huda. So, basically, as I presented myself in various different webinars, and I think on other platforms. I am an advocate of international trade, of democratization of international trade. I'm among those very few people that see the supply chain not only as a tool to transport something for point A to point B, but as a tool that gives uh, everybody the same chance to trade wherever they are. I'm also an advocate of uh, same bigger opportunities to trade rather than traveling. In other words, we can much easily move a cargo from point A to point B than traveling from point A to point B. So I'm a supply chain person. I started in logistics. I worked with big names in freight forwarding. I worked in different industries. I discovered how technology could support international trade and how technology can help everybody access the information needed to move things and have things discovered everywhere in the world. And today, what we are trying to do, the team of TradeSocial and myself, is to democratize a little bit the processes. Thank you. Now, just to give more details about what we do and what I have been doing beforehand. So I had the chance previously to work with the UAE government into a project which was a major B2B platform that digitalizes not only the access to the good, but also that digitalizes the access to supply chain and to logistics. And from there, we came with an idea with my partners today. We came with the idea to um, move ahead and map a little bit the processes, see where the complications are coming from, and digitalize. And then we discovered that AI could support us further, and then we started investigating in that realm. And we today we are bringing to the market something quite quite new and something that has quite a heavy potential. To you, Huda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Qasim. So, as the our clients from the Foodie Show know me. My name is Heuda Guessous. I co-founded the Foodie Show in 2020, and the Foodie Show answers a personal problem of mine, other than other personal problems of other people, because I traveled the world trying to do some lead generation, came across different um, time zones, lots of travel time and cost, and sometimes it wasn't the best investment in time or energy or money. And that's something that I've seen also perpetuate with SMEs. So SMEs, sometimes I meet very interesting SMEs, leadership as well as product, but there's not a good market fit, and or sometimes the process, the sales process is a long sales process, especially in the B2B sector, which hinders those SMEs to be able to export. So on the lead generation side, that is what we tried to democratize, because we know how cost and time is very important to SMEs, and also be able to connect people. This is something that I love to do, is connect people around the world with SMEs, and also
So yes, indeed. I think connecting people is what we all are trying to do. I think at our end or at both ends. So basically, I think the trade revolves not only about selling or buying, but it's about connecting civilizations, connecting cultures, and getting and sending across markets items that are new. Today, if we look at the role of retailers, or for people, for some of you that work in FMCG business, you will understand that in the FMCG, it's very important to have every time a new product, to have every time something new on the shelves, and therefore it's very complicated to maintain the same SKUs across the lines. So this is why also what we do comes to the picture. It is important because we give the chance to everybody to try something new. We give the chance to businesses to thrive. We give the chance to producers to thrive. We give the chance to SMEs to thrive, and it's always good to discover new product. So I will move on to something, to another very important point, which is the potential of the potential that we have today in terms of international trade, and the potential that we have in emerging markets. So today, if we look at emerging markets uh, throughout the globe, we see there is a tendency to push the products in those emerging markets and push them across. So today you will see, without a doubt, the emerging markets such as African market, Asian market, and Latin and markets from Latin America, even Oceania, products being present all across and being pushed all across the globe. And this is why there are two trends that are very solid today, which are free trade agreements between those markets, and agreements to push the products on those markets all across. Why was this not happening before? Well, actually, it was not happening before because, one, the logistics were very complicated, and second, the supply chains were very complex. And this is what my friend Heuda and our teams are trying to do. Back to you, Heuda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Qasim. But apologize, technical problems. Whoever is watching us today, do believe why supply chain optimization matter for SMEs. We would like to hear from you. What are the problems that you are finding? What is for you the most critical aspect, if not a combination of aspects? And I have some questions for you. Is it finding buyers? Is it the logistics? Is it the compliance? Is it the payments? So please answer just on the comments. Feel free to answer in the comments. A, B, C, D, or A plus B plus C plus D, or all a combination. You can say all of them. Feel free to ask questions later, so do take notes, and then you can ask questions at any time. But we would love to hear from you. What is the main challenge that you are facing at the moment? Is it finding the buyers? Is it the lead generation? Is it the aspect of the logistics? Is it the compliance, because there's many markets and then you need to comply? Or is it the fintech? Is it the payments, the capacity to be able to finance the products before you send them? Let's see if we have some comments. I hope it's not too early for you guys. Maybe we will ask the question later, and then we will actually hear that. Qasem, what do you believe? What do you think is the most important, or what matters? What are the challenges that are facing the SMEs? I know that you've been working with a lot of SMEs, and so have we. So, in your point of view, what would be the number one challenge facing those SMEs trying to go abroad?
Well, I think it's if I had to answer this question, I would say all of the above because the biggest one of the biggest challenge it is matching the supply and the demand. But in order for the demand and the supply to match, they need to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to meet, they need the right platform to meet. So in the old golden days, people used to meet in forums, in fairs, in expos, in trade shows. But you, it gets more complicated for people to travel all across, and it becomes costly financially and for the planet. And therefore, with the speed that things are evolving today, I believe having this match happen digitally is key. And I believe, and I'm sure, Huda and your team, you're doing an amazing job in that sphere. Now, the other parts are related to the logistics, the compliance, and the payments. And I think this is the operational side of it because we have areas where the access is not easy. And I give a very simple example, which is Fiji or Papua New Guinea. So basically, I had the chance to work very closely with the suppliers from Fiji and PNG and from Vanuatu not long ago. And the biggest challenge, they have a wonderful product. So the product is not complicated, but the logistics is the biggest issue because sending cargo from Oceania or from those markets becomes extremely expensive and extremely costly. Therefore, working on the logistics is the biggest challenge. If we look at payments, then I would tell you African markets, the payment system in Africa is still very complicated. I myself I have today many operations from Africa or to Africa or intra-Africa and payments, and they have been coming back to us, asking us to find solutions to the payment system because the payment system is the biggest challenge, although they are building something incredible, which is the AFCFTA, which is the free trade agreement. And then we have the compliance. So the compliance, I believe, it is a global challenge. It is a global challenge because number one, getting all the approvals on hand in order to import or export is complicated. But there is another layer of complexity, which is the understanding of what's required and what is not. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing a lot, how can I ship a product cross border, or how can I enter this market, and how can I understand what I need or I do not need. Once again, I believe you have ticked many of those boxes at your end.
I'm just gonna tell you the
Yeah,
story. And,
yeah.
then
Please.
when we went live for the foodie show for the first time, and then we had a local governmental agency who had done a call for exporters who would like, for producers who would like to export to international market, and had very interesting local product, ethnic products, and couscous and oils, and all of the good stuff that is coming out of Morocco. And I'm just going to give the Moroccan, because that would be probably something that would speak to many that are watching us today. And we matched them with the right buyer, because we know that the buyer was very happy to make to order a container as a sample container, just to check what is the so he never received any information back from from the supplier, who were very like amazed that you have an order. You should be sending like pro forma invoices to get the payment, and to get like at least a deposit on the payment and stuff like that. And it's also capacity. So our supplier did not have the capacity to sell a full container, because that would take up a lot of work, a lot of time, and then that would be based on another market, so the local market not being delivered in the local market. So some of the small suppliers who also have this problem is like, do I really want to go into this? Is the question. I mean, I ask a lot of people because we get a lot of contacts of people contact us almost every month. It's like, I would like to go international. I would like to be able to export my products, and I do know, I'm gonna quote all of most of the clients we have. We have some people that come to Morocco or come to Egypt, and they take the product with them abroad. So are sure there is a market abroad. I'm like, do you know the logistics? Do you have the capacity to fill a full container? Have you ever tried packaging? Is your packaging compliant? Did you work on the label? Do you know what kind of label you should use? Do you know if the additives are? Do you have a quality management system? Do you call it quality assessment system? So all of those questions, and they seem overwhelmed. And then we do tell them it's not because we want to scare you. It's just we want to tell you that is a different markets with a different cost, and don't think the cost that you are producing with at the moment is the cost that you're going internationally. So there is adaptation, and there's also investment to be had to be able to hire the right people, because you need people to for quality assessment, for quality control. You need to do traceability. You have to have certifications and so on. I mean, each market has its own specificities. So don't believe all of the markets because you are selling in your market, because you have the product that is running in your local market that you can export. That is one thing that you need to think about before you go in international. And the second part, if I had to give you another tip, and then today, because we are about tips and giving you the tools to be able to export, check how much capacity do you have, and is it one shift, two shifts, three shifts? Can you do two shifts? What is the step cost that you have to put that will be there if you don't reach those numbers? And also, do you have the capacity to store? Do you have the capacity to run different things? Do you have a good partner, which is the packaging the packaging supplier, the label supplier? What is your lead times? Like, no, we can do it in, like, it's easy. It's like we're running, it's easy. No, but when you have thousands and thousands of small orders, you need to be able to organize all those small orders to be able to know exactly when can you produce, when can you ship, when can you incubate, because in export you need to incubate before you check the quality, release the containers or release the goods, and then you do the process. And sometimes it takes 1 month. And the shelf life, if the shelf life is very short, then it doesn't work, and then you only end up with like 2 months left on the shelf life. If you get the transportation, the logistics, at the end your product will be out of the shelves in very short time. So additionally, I mean, other than the fact that you have need to find the buyers, I mean, the logistic and the compliance, sometimes it starts with the company and their capacity. I mean, it's good to have a vision, but you need to put the money and the resources where the vision is.
Totally, and I totally agree with you. And yeah, thank you for bringing this point, because usually we talk about whether we find a buyer, we find a seller, whether the documents, we can issue documents, whether we can pay for the transportation, whether we have the right transportation partner. But what we miss very often is the capability of the supplier to fulfill an order. And I also faced a lot of these cases, and it happens very frequently, especially in food and in commodities. So basically, lately we have been talking to coffee producers, and today there is a very fashionable word being specialty coffee, and getting for specialty coffee from here and
Mhm.
there. And everybody, the coffee market is a market that is growing exponentially, and everybody is looking for coffee or new flavor. And we have been talking to a lot of coffee producers, and those coffee producers have had the interest of many buyers across the GCC region. And when they come down to the discussion, they discover that those producers cannot give more than half a container of coffee, or I mean half of a 20-foot container of coffee, which is very, very, very small production. So yes, there is this willingness to the business. There is this willingness to to manage any complexity related to documents, payment, logistics. But then fulfillment is an issue, and getting production or getting produce across. And for a buyer, what we need to remember, going in the same direction of what you stated in the beginning, is very important to be able to sustain delivery, because this distributor usually talks to buyers or to end buyers and or retailers or supermarkets, and they need to be able to deliver throughout the demand or throughout the year or throughout the year. And it becomes a big problem if you can supply the first batches and then you stop the supply, then you lose completely the trust of the distributor and or other distributors across the market. So thank you very much for that. This is a very, very important point, the fulfillment.
And I'm
Indeed.
also going to give you the other side of the product. So a lot of people wanted to go into the US market, and I do remember we had a client some years back who was at Whole Foods, but he was at Whole Foods at a single store for trial. So when you are in a single store for trial and then the numbers are good, it's because they do numbers. They understand how fast, like 1 meter or 1 centimeter of shelving space, how much is it generation of revenue, and that's how they decide whether they should keep your product or not on the shelf. If it's not selling, then you shouldn't be. It should be a contract of less than, it's about 6 months, and then they switch. So in any ways, in no ways he was able to handle regional, because you have local, then you have regional, then you have multi-regional, and then you have national. So a lot of people would think that they'll roll out nationally when they go into one supermarket chain. You can't unless you have the capacity. So sometimes it enables you to test the product, to get the feedback, to understand what works and what doesn't, and then you can adapt or invest or partner or subcontract or do whatever needs to be done in order to be able to export. And like you said, there is commodities, but there's also ready to eat products, shelf ready, fast moving consumer goods. Retail is totally different from commodities or international, and then food service is also very different. So you need to understand what kind of product and what kind of market channels you want to position your products in, and then accordingly know what your strategy is and what should be your clients. Trying to sell to everybody and trying to meet all of the demand is very, very challenging, especially if you are a small enterprise. And when I say small enterprise, you're making then your turnover is under $2 million a year. That's what I would say. So if you are under $2 million a year, that you are a very small company at least, or medium company. But if you are making more, that means you put together. I'm sorry, it's $20 million. It's $20 million. So that also is very challenging. So not being able to deliver, not being able to test and grow, you need to understand what kind of negotiations you can do with your end buyer. Say we would like to stay regional, we are relevant because we have the supply chain in this market. Just for the people that are usually asking me about the US market, it is 50 states. It is 50 countries. It is every 50 taste buds. Not all of them are the same. There's also ethnic groups, different ethnic groups, different tastes, different local products, different local dishes. So yeah, it's very complex. And same goes for the GCC, Qasim. There's lots of communities from different places, and there's not a big market. So it's not a homogeneous market. What do you think about
Indeed.
the GCC?
Indeed, GCC. I have the chance to live in the region for over 11, 12 years now, and there is the popularity, the business popularity of the region is growing exponentially, and people understand more and more that being in GCC means that you are literally at the center of where trade happens. So basically, you are a few hours away from by flight from Asia, you're few hours away from Europe and few hours away from Africa. So, and you're quite well connected if you have shipments to Latin America or the Americas. So it is a very interesting market. Dubai has positioned itself in the beginning as being the epicenter. So basically, thanks to their system or their policy of free zones, it became a very, very uh, important marketplace. It became a very important hub. So companies started to meet in Dubai, consolidate in Dubai. The port facilities have helped a lot, and the airport facilities. Jabal Ali is a very, very, very important port in the region, as well as DXB, Dubai Airport. So there is a lot happening in the region. People come to the region, they understand that storing in the UAE and shipping to Asia cuts down a lot of time. It reduces storage prices. We can also transform. So there are many products that are being transformed in a region. So basically, you optimize your shelf life for people that deal with food whenever you're dealing with the African market. In terms of policies, there is a general policy governed by the GSO, basically in the region when it comes to food, for instance. So in most of the markets, Arabic labeling is a must. There is registration across the GCC. So basically, to enter a market, items need to be registered. So and it's a bit streamlined. It's quite streamlined. So it is a very interesting market in terms of demand. It's a very interesting market. When I say market, I mean GCC in terms of geography. So from Dubai, you can ship by land to across the GCC. Today, there is we see Saudi Arabia as a waiting market. So it is a huge market. It's a lot of population. It is a market that is shifting. So it became even more interesting, and we see a lot of the presence of many Chinese companies positioning themselves in the Saudi market, but they were before only in the UAE. So there is a lot of demand, a lot of transformation, whether in food or in technology, moving through the GCC region. In terms of payment systems, the payment systems are quite advanced and connected to markets in Singapore, Hong Kong, and China, and in Europe. So it is very, very interesting. In terms of compliance, it is, if we're compliant with whatever is requested with the FDA or other markets, it's easy to be compliant across Europe or Asia or in the US. And in terms of technology, it is also, we see a lot of technology being created from the GCC or being developed in the GCC. So it is very interesting. That's all I can say. This is why we see a lot of things happening here or starting from here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I've also sent quite some quantities to the GCC market, and yes, Saudi Arabia is by far the biggest market in terms of population, but also in terms of visitors, because there's not only the population. Hajj and Umrah, they have a lot of visitors, so they need to fulfill those additional volumes. And I do agree that there is platforms for distributions, and historically some countries have been positioning themselves in different like you have mentioned, Dubai, or the UAE in general, because the Sharjah also has some interesting hubs for the distribution. So yes, and then Singapore in Southeast Asia can also do that. And then you have in the US, you have the East Coast has also some distribution hubs where you can supply different countries, mainly Canada, and then also the inner states, if you want, by logistics, so they can do fulfillment. And then we have the Netherlands and Belgium in EU that are extremely big on logistics. You know, the ports of and Anvers. And Rotterdam, big ports, very competitive ports in terms of shipping logistics, as well as the distribution centers and the distribution hub, the fulfillment centers, and then all of the systems that we were been talking about. So let me just tell you the logistics, the compliance, and the payments that are really advanced because they have many cases and they worked on that. So you do capitalize on those hubs. If we have to give you any tips, to capitalize on those hubs to be able to sample, because this is food. This is not something else. This is food. Food needs to taste good, to be pleasing to the people who wants to buy it. Sometimes it's not a necessity, it's not a commodity. You're not buying a commodity, you're buying food that you like, and then it should bring you pleasure as well as nutrients. So it's a two different things. So you need to be able, if you have to do a step, so you need to start small, sample all of the work with the fulfillment centers. Yes, it takes a little bit more time and logistics, but you understand exactly which market you are in, and then you can adapt before you actually go and grow exponentially. Um, Qasim, now that we talked about we said the logistics, the compliance. Yes, the compliance are very big internationally. The payments as well. Usually it's wire transfers. And I'm gonna give you another story. Did you know that, for instance, in Morocco, you are not capable of prepaying an order if you are importing? And I'm sure it's the same case in different countries.
Indeed.
There
But
is
I
there
would
is
love to know the skills.
Yes, anything above 20,000 20,000 euros, that's not something that you can pay fully. So a lot of orders, people do ask you to pay in advance to be able to process, and then in Morocco you cannot pay in advance to process, which means automatically you rule out a lot of suppliers. So you only can work with the suppliers that actually accept to do that. By law, if it's above 20,000, you can only give them 30% of the pro forma invoice, because that's very regulated. Why are they doing that? They're doing that to enable you to keep your money in case there's a problem, and they don't pay the 70% unless the process is fully done. That means the goods have been imported into the country, inspected, and then passed they are entered into the country. Then automatically the banks would pay the 70%. It has a cost. This transaction has a cost because it's an import. um, um, and that is also something that you need to understand. What is the financial system that you have in place? You need to be able to have that, to be able to negotiate with the suppliers. You need to be able to show the cases where it's like that, and you need to show them also to work with the bank. Sometimes your banker is your best friend, and from here I salute my banker who is actually very available whenever I have a question, to be able to give you the right advice before you go into that. What kind of services you are able to put in place? What's new in fintech? It moves very fast, and you need to be updated as well to understand how it works. Can you split the orders? Can you do like half an order? You need to be able to make that transaction. It's not a very easy, straight to the point kind of transaction. There's a lot of gymnastics, and you need to be a gymnast. You need to be an acrobat. You need to understand what you would like to do, how fast you need it. Sometimes it's about speed. You need to do it fast, and you need to do it. Otherwise, somebody else would be in that market, and you don't have the first step into that market. Sometimes you would be copied very fast, and you need to be able to secure that market before you do that. And if I had to add one challenge that people don't think about, is the brand and the IP, the intellectual property. You need to be able to register your brand everywhere you want to go, and then give the contract to whoever is importing. If you don't do that, and in some countries it takes a long time to register. So in some countries, if you don't do it ahead of time before you move into that country, somebody can take your brand. And then we found that we had an exporter of other goods that is coming from Europe. When he wanted to enter the local market, he found that one of his brand has already been registered 5 years ago, and then that it was his main brand. And we couldn't even find who the person. He was registered to a person, not a company, and it took us a while to find who was registered to, so we can buy it from him or do other stuff with him. But yes, it is the IP. It's very important. Sometimes we tried to do products out of Morocco for an Egyptian market, but it's already registered in Morocco, and so we cannot do a competitive brand, even if it's not registered. So there's a lot of IP problems also that might occur if you are selling with branded products or finished products with label, that you need to take into consideration. And it's also very important. So you need to have your checklist and then go over your checklist, understand what do you have, what are the requirements, and then work on an action plan that enables you to do that before you start the part where we are good at, which is the lead generation and the logistics that follow that. Qasim, do you have something else to add?
Actually, I'm extremely aligned with what you're saying. We need to know, I think, whether you're a producer and a buyer, or whether you're a producer or a buyer, you need to understand where you want to go. You need to understand the size. You need to understand your financial capabilities, and then you need to understand how you want to push your product. When you are a seller, you need to know whether your product would fit into mass distribution, whether it would fit into retail, whether today there is a big component that comes into the picture, which is companies that go directly into e-com, and they decide to test the market through e-commerce. They decide to test the market through single individual shipments. So they try to tick the boxes related to the compliance before verging into a market. And this is why we see the rise a lot of 5PL companies. So a 5PL company today, does that work for you? A 5PL company today helps you get positioned into a market, uh, and then tick many of those boxes where we have questions. So it is the supplier that does the investment. The supplier gets a feedback on a specific market, on the demand, on the labeling, on the competitiveness, before deciding whether it is important to invest into a market and find buyers. Because finding buyers is not only getting revenue out of a market, but it's also an investment, be it marketing investment, being a labeling investment, being sometimes it's a matter of flavor. So sometimes you change the entire recipe in order to meet the flavor requirements of a specific market. I go back to the coffee, and I go back to the coffee in GCC. For many years, we were talking only about Arabica. It was because the blends that you make out of Arabica match better with the taste profile. Today, we see a bit more Robusta coffee being shipped to the region, and I'm talking about the coffee, but I can talk about so many other products. When we talk about packaging, the same thing. There are specific markets where it is accepted for cocoa to be shipped in a specific packaging, but when it comes to other markets, it is just unheard of, or you cannot think about other type of packaging, because some markets are more sensitive to the environment, to the impact of the environment, to the recycling, etc., etc. So, as you said, it's an investment on both ends. You've given a very good example with regards to the payments, and markets not allowing you to pay or to outlay more than a specific value of the transaction. And this gave some smart ideas to some markets, whether through escrow accounts or others. And then we saw a generation or a growth of fintech, which is a term we do hear more often when we're talking about trade, or when we're talking about services as well. So I think people are getting smarter through digitalization to find solutions to barriers to trade. The barriers to trade are increasing, and I think we'll have the chance to tap into this point. So there are more and more barriers to trade. but we're lucky enough to see that there are more and more solutions being presented. And I think we are blessed to be still in a market where, despite all the barriers or despite all the challenges, which the international trade face, there is still this genuine willingness to get goods sent cross border, and to have that growing interest to try products from overseas. Back to you, Huda.
Yes,
Thank you.
so yeah, I mean, it's a great introduction into the next point is like why supply chain. I'm sorry, what are the key challenges in the food and beverage supply chain? Let's talk about the barriers. Let's talk about the challenges that we are facing at the moment and the barriers that we have always faced. So let's start about the current ones.
Okay, so when we're talking about food and beverage, we're talking about the taste. So we're talking about appetite, we're talking about flavor, but we're talking about freshness as well. And when we're talking about food, we're talking about something we consume, and when the food we consume needs to be fresh, should not be expired, should be transported in the right circumstances, in the right environment. So I think the major point when it comes to food, it is quality. So logistics plays a vital role in food and beverage because spoiled food shipped all across becomes a charge and becomes a penalty, becomes an issue rather than an opportunity to have to eat or to consume something decent. So the logistics of it is very important. When I talk about logistics, I can tap into three major challenges that we have faced. So I'll try to leave it to make it to give you as to give you a very practical example. So the first one is related to fresh products being shipped by air. So today, it is a challenge. Why? Because not all airports. So we start with the markets. So not all airports are, and we start with the samples. So before you ship a heavy shipment, usually we go with the sample shipment, and the sample shipment, a fresh sample shipment, is a problem. Why? Because in some airports we just don't have the right facilities to store something fresh. So you may ask for specific temperature. You might even go through the hassle of dry ice and what have you, which is another point that I will be raising later. But just moving this item to an airport before it is loaded and not having the right facility to store this product can create some variances in terms of temperature and humidity, and therefore spoil a product. So this is a very simple problem where a producer, a supplier, or a supplier or a client do not have a lot of power, but where it can impact quite heavily the quality of a product. The second is related to, again, we're starting with a sample, right? We need to try product before moving to a big order. And here the second example is the shipment. Today we ship food; it is perishable as per our understanding of IATA and rules and regulations. But then, in order to maintain the quality of that product and in order not to get broken, move into other containers, which as containers specialized for moving fresh product, we put a dry ice. And guess what? The dry ice is a DG product. So in order for me to send some fresh burrata to anywhere in the world to be tried, I need number one to put, no, actually burrata isn't a great example, but probably let's say chocolate. I need not only to manage the perishable product, but I need to manage also the dry ice that I put in my box or in my boxes. And then it becomes, I need to abide by regulation related to DG cargo and food and beverage. And I'm just giving a very simple example that many of our attendees or participants must have faced at some point in their careers. And then we're moving to the big shipments, and then we're talking about. So let's assume the cargo has reached, and we there is an order that has been placed, and documents have been navigated, etc. We need to transport this big shipment, and we need to manage then the reefer shipment. So we need to make sure that we're dealing with the proper company, and that company that we are dealing with has a proper management of its gen set, and it is, and again, the facilities in the market have enough areas where to plug our gensets whenever the containers reaches the ports or in the vessel, and then there is a proper follow-up. Now there is the insurance. So insurance plays a vital role. So the buyer or the seller need to understand how important, especially with food, the insurance plays a vital role, because sometimes there are fluctuations. So we believe that the container or the shipment has made its journey within the right temperature and humidity, and then we discover that no, there was some cuts, and those cuts has tampered with the quality of the food. So the infrastructure is a problem or a challenge. The logistics, as I gave just very few examples, is a challenge. The other challenge with food is the regulation, and this is also a major point. So, what do I need to ship a food product in a market A and B and C and D? So, in the Arab world and in the GCC, there is number one, we need to deal with halal certificate. Not all the suppliers understand what is a halal certificate. How can I get a halal certificate? Where is it applicable? Does it need to be attested and legalized? Does it need only to be attested? Does it need only to be legalized? How much does it cost to attest a document? And how much does it cost to legalize a document? Number two, there are rules and regulations that are applicable all across. So today we hear a lot. There is a fashion or a trend related to organic products. So now we see a lot of this sign of organic label and organic certificate that is being required all across. Who issues it? How can we issue it? Is it acceptable? Is the agency issuing this or that certificate accepted in this or that market? So there are so many questions that producers or buyers ask. So basically, they want to get the product shipped cross border, but they are not sure whether they have the right documents and whether they have the right information. So the legislation or the regulation or the certification or a license it creates a complexity. Number three, there is the barriers related to tariffs. And I think I will not say more about it. I think the news have had their fair share of this topic. But sometimes we believe we can navigate tariffs, and we end up discovering that although we have the right partnerships between the markets, and I give a very small example, and I will not dive in it. So I think people that ship across those markets will understand what I'm talking about. Today we have the Arab League agreements. So basically, the exchange of food products and the shipments of food products between the Arab League countries. However, getting a stamp, the necessary stamp on some documents makes your life easier, but makes the life of the producer harder, because they either get a compensation for what they do, but they get an order, or they decide not to get a compensation, but they get the exports. So stamps sometimes become a challenge, and this is what our friends in the Maghreb call it les entraves tarifaires. So basically, the challenges to go against the tariffs. And then there is the general understanding in trade. So I believe that globally, trade has been there since ancient history. But I think in terms of education all across, there is a lot that needs to be done. People understand the need for trade, but do not have the necessary information or generic learning and trainings when it comes to trade. So not anybody can become an international trader, and it's not a trade license that allows you to become an international trader. The trade license allows you to buy and sell in a specific market, but not cross-border, and therefore it is very important to be registered with Kacem, so they understand what you move, and they control what goes inside the country and outside the country. And last but not least, it is digitalization. So markets have redefined their trade and consumptions based on digitalization and technology. So if we look at the Asian market or the GCC market, in those markets, the procurement is done digitally, so it's done online. While in other markets, you still need to go to shows and trade fairs, etc. So this is a complexity, because in some markets you enter that market through online and through digitalization and blockchain, while some in other markets things are done very differently on a manually, and therefore we need to add whenever there is a manual intervention, there is unfortunately non-streamlined processes, and therefore more understanding that is required. And this is all. Thank you.
I hope I summarized everything that you said: quality,
Superb.
logistics, IT, compliance, infrastructure, halal certifications if you're going into the DCC market. And then I can give you another example of the halal. So, the halal, you believe that all of your products, if you are in a Muslim country, it's halal because everything around you is halal. But it is a certification, it is a process to be documented and explained. While you are, it's not about the origin, is it vegetable or meat, it's the whole process. It's more of a quality management certification, and not really like just about the origin of the meat. So you have it for the couscous, you have it for the pasta, you have it even for the preserved lemons, or preserved like frozen berries. So yeah, it depends on the level of process, but however, you need to be able to show that certifications. And some countries have certifications that are not accepted. And I'm going to go for the kosher certifications. For instance, there are some kosher certifications that are accepted in certain countries, they're not accepted in other countries. And there's certifications that I hear sometimes that they are only certifying a shipment, and I'm like, what? No, it is a whole process that needs to be certified. So yeah, you might say yes, I have it, but and again, like you said, you have the challenge of not getting those paperwork accepted in the country. So you need to make sure that you have a good communication with the buyer, that you can send the samples, have them go through verifications before you actually do the shipment, because food is perishable, like Qasim said. If you don't if it doesn't enter, there either is gonna be, you're gonna have to pay back to get it, and if you get it back, that means it has to be inspected at the port once it returns, and that inspection can take a lot of time and money, because you're paying other logistics costs, which is the cost of storage, the cost of Serestari, and a lot of that. So a lot of people don't understand. But yes, I did get some containers back because client didn't believe it is the right quality, or client thinks it's like 1 degree of salt more, and then, or just they don't want it anymore and they can send it to you back. That is very challenging. It can take your whole year in one container that is sent back. So be careful about all of that. Other than that, there's a lot of opportunities. People are gonna eat food. So food is important. This is one trade that it's not like textiles, it's not like leather sector. I mean, people will still have to eat. It just depends if you are on the Maslow pyramid. Are you at the bottom of the pyramid, or are you at the top of the pyramid? If you are the caviar, probably if they don't have the money, they will not go for it. You're going for a niche market. But if you are the flour, the oil, the sugar, the basic product, the commodities, people will always need to trade. And then once you have any disruptions in the um, trade map, if you want, whether it's wars, whether it's tariff, whether it's shortages, because now there's a lot of climate change, and there's a lot of drought in a lot of places. So crops are not very consistent. So there's also opportunities. Just wanted to share some information with you, some stats. So 72% of food and beverage SMEs struggle with high customer acquisition costs when exporting. And the global processed food trade, just processed, not the fresh, just the processed, is $1.7 trillion in 2024. Of those countries, believe it or not, Africa food and beverage export has a year-to-year growth of 12%. But SMEs face barriers, all the barriers that we have spoken with. So before we end this session, we want to introduce to you why we partnered up, why the Foodie Show partnered up with Trade Socials, because the Foodie Show is a platform connecting buyers, suppliers, and service providers throughout the world. What we ensure is we ensure that you have a very low cost of acquisition. Clients can trust you with the quality, you, but we also vet the buyers. And then we give you a platform where we connect and negotiate. We do not negotiate for you. And one of the problems that we have faced, as I have mentioned before, is some companies do not have the capacity to export because they don't understand the logistics of it. They don't understand the paperwork of it, which is extremely important. That's where TradeSocial come in. They actually can take all the hustle out of that and then work with you to get your product across. So Qasim, explain the process.
So yeah, thank you, Huda. So yes, thank you, Huda. So I stated earlier the biggest challenge that is usually faced by buyers and sellers by in international trade is meeting buyers, the logistics, the compliance, and the payment. So basically, food issue supports buyers to meet sellers and sellers to meet buyers. So basically, get the chance for this trade to happen. And we enable and TradeSocial enables this trade to happen. So basically, after the buyers knows the seller and after the seller knows the buyer through the food issue, TradeSocial comes to the picture where we issue all the necessary documents, all the necessary authorizations, all the necessary test reports, and we offer also the digital logistics solution for this trade to happen. So more practically speaking, let's say a coffee supplier wants to enter the Morocco market. So through the food issue, the buyer meets the seller and the seller meets the buyer. And to TradeSocial, the documents, the test reports, the export license, the import license, the logistics, the shipping, everything is not only shared, but it is enabled and done through TradeSocial. So this was something that was being done uh, in silos, or that is currently being done in silos, where you have logistics companies that create the logistics, or where you have testing companies that do the test reports, where you have legal agencies that gives the exporter the right to export through export license and buyers to import through import license, that give registration, etc. through brokers. So instead of having many silos and understanding every single silo, what TradeSocial does is that just thanks to an HS code or thanks to a product, you get everything moved across. So this is the essence of the collaboration. It is a collaboration that is meant to support the trade to happen, and that gives a chance to SMEs and to big corporation, whichever is their size, to cross border. To you, Huda.
Yes, I just wanted to go the solution, what the solution to the problem is like it's a unique digital platform. We started as a virtual event, and Qasim, you've been with us since the beginning, and then we transitioned into a digital platform for B2B connections globally. What we offer is reducing lead generation by 90%. You know, one lead costs you less than $50. Imagine packing your bags, traveling all the way to the GCC and trying to get one client. You probably go the first time, you won't have one client, but you'll end up with a lot of business cards. You do have business cards as well, and on our side you have a lot of contacts, but you have the possibility also to maintain these relationship, because you don't get only one event. You have the possibility to be there for a subscription for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 1 year. And we are connecting quickly because we are pre-qualifying the buyers and cutting deals close time by 50%. The products, the catalog is digital, so you mean once you can download it, but also the products are also showcased. So it's like a marketplace, which is the e-commerce type of it. The marketplace, however, there's no actual transactions. We are sustainable because we are minimizing carbon footprint and material waste. We're not traveling, we are not printing, we are not uh, creating a lot of waste, especially after one event. So it is sustainable, and we do care about that. And we are learning opportunities because we have speakers like Kacem and other people that actually joined us to share their insights. It's like how to's. It's not about like just telling you about ideas, but I was like how to get into this specific market. What are the problems? What are this? And then we've seen a lot of connections spring out of that from Africa to Asia, but also from Africa, from Europe and other places to other countries, and that's what really makes a difference for us. So how it works is there's a first of all showroom, there's exclusive events, learning and inspiration, and you have real-time tracking, so enables you to understand how many people visited your booth, how many clicks you've got, and all of that, and then you know the traction. We are in 103 countries, and those are the countries where our buyers and also users and exhibitors are from. So about 350 buyers from 49 countries across different channels and categories, but also an active community of 3,000 plus professionals. An exhibitor would sell about 100 to 120 pounds, which is $150,000, because they have the capacity. We're not talking about the smalls, we're talking about like on the end of the SME, the ME side. So medium enterprise, they have the capacity, they have that. And so the process is faster. And then once we get the information, it is much faster. And we have a 98% satisfaction. So whoever when they come, they know exactly what they are in for. It is for lead generation, nothing else. And that would end my presentation. So any questions, feel free to answer, to write on the comment side. We will be happy to answer you. Qasem.
From our end, just to conclude the session, um, global trade is something that there is all the projections, all the studies, whether we're going into diving into crisis or not, all the indicators show that there is a trend of increasing shipments, increasing movements, increasing trends. Yes, there have been a lot of discussions about regionalization and either produce locally and serve locally, or produce in the region and serve in the region. But I do not believe anymore into localization, simply because you cannot produce in one location what you can experience all across the globe. So
Mhm.
regionalization for me means also international trade. So whether we're shipping from thousands and thousands of kilometers or few hundreds of kilometers, at the end there is a regulation that apply. And I believe our role today is uh, use what we have to democratize, to support, to alleviate challenges, and to use digitalization as a tool to do good. So I would like to thank you for the time. To thank you for the opportunity to join this webinar. Would like to thank the people that have joined us, and thank you, Huda. Back to you.
Thank you, Qasim. I guess we are very timid audience this morning. Is it because it's Saturday? Because it's hot? Because it's starting to get hot on this on this side of the world. Anyways, feel free to reach out to us. We are available on LinkedIn, both of us, but also through the proper channels, through the websites. Our team will be happy to assist you. We believe in digitalization as well, to cut in costs and getting all the information across. So please, if you are curious, do book a meeting, book a demo, get in touch and see how we can further help you grow your brand or export your goods across the region, and at least get you some information. Thank you so much for Qasim. Thank you to the team, both our teams that worked to into organizing this webinar. And I'm going to say to everyone, stay tuned. We will show you the use cases and the collaboration that will coming out of these partnerships that I believe will change how especially the small businesses will do business across the globe.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Huda, and thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of the day and have a good weekend. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye bye.
Bye.